Three boys towering over a wheelchair, and 16-year-old Keisha Williams about to make the choice that would cost her everything she'd worked for. "Give us the tablet, wheelie boy." Tyler's voice cut through the afternoon air behind Lincoln High School. Brett and Jake flanked him, blocking any escape route. In the wheelchair sat a quiet boy with expensive clothes and terrified eyes. Keisha clutched her torn backpack tighter. She should keep walking, mind her own business. She had a scholarship application due next week, one that required a perfect disciplinary record. One suspension would destroy her only shot at college. But the boy's hands were shaking. She stepped forward. What Keisha didn't know was that this wasn't just any ordinary kid she was about to defend. Tomorrow, when a black SUV pulled up to her apartment building, everything would change. But first, she had to survive what was about to happen next and face the consequences that would nearly destroy everything she'd sacrificed to build. Every morning, Keisha faced the same impossible choice between buying breakfast or saving money for Nana Ruth's medicine. But today, that choice would seem trivial compared to what was coming. 5:30 a.m. The alarm clock's shrill beep cut through the thin walls of their subsidized housing apartment. Keisha's eyes snapped open, immediately checking the nightstand. Good, the power was still on. Yesterday, they'd gotten a warning notice. She padded barefoot across the cold linoleum to the kitchenette. The refrigerator hummed loudly, struggling to keep cool. Inside, a half-empty jug of water, some wilted lettuce, and a container of leftover rice from 3 days ago. "Morning, baby." Nana Ruth's voice came from the small living room, already awake despite the early hour. At 72, sleep came in short bursts between the pain in her joints and worry about bills. Keisha forced a smile. "Morning, Nana. How are you feeling?" "Oh, you know, same old joints complaining." Ruth Williams had raised her granddaughter alone since Keisha was 8, when her parents died in that car accident on I-95. Some drunk driver ran a red light, and just like that, Keisha's world shrank to this cramped apartment and the woman who refused to let tragedy win. Keisha opened the medicine cabinet, 2 bottles, one for Nana's diabetes, one for her blood pressure. Both are nearly empty, both are expensive. She counted out the morning pills, her stomach nodding as she calculated. Refills cost $180 they didn't have. "Don't worry about those pills, baby," Nana Ruth said, reading her granddaughter's expression. "The Lord will provide." But Keisha knew the Lord expected them to do their part too. That's why she worked every day after school at Rodriguez Corner Store, counting every dollar, every quarter, every penny. $45 a day when Mrs. Rodriguez could afford to schedule her. Missing even one shift meant choosing between electricity and groceries. She made instant oatmeal with water instead of milk. Milk cost extra they couldn't spare. Added a spoonful of sugar to make it taste like something other than cardboard. Nana Ruth pretended not to notice. Keisha only made 1 bowl. "You eating, child?" "Already had some earlier," Keisha lied smoothly. "She'd eat lunch at school, maybe, if the free lunch program wasn't backed up again." Walking to Lincoln High meant 2 miles each way, but the bus fare was $2 she needed for other things. Like the application fee for the nursing program at community college. Like the 73 cents towards next month's rent. Her backpack held 3 textbooks, all used, some with pages falling out. Her notebook was a composition book from the dollar store, filled front and back to save money. Inside the front cover, she'd written her favorite quote, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Eleanor Roosevelt said that. Keisha clung to those words when everything else felt hopeless. At school, she noticed things other kids took for granted. Mercedes and BMWs dropping off students who complained about getting only $100 for lunch money. Designer backpacks that cost more than Keisha's entire wardrobe. Kids who threw away half-eaten sandwiches while she carefully saved her apple core for later. She kept her head down, focused on grades. NBCTDs, 3.8 gigapascals despite working 20 hours a week. Despite studying by candlelight when the power got cut. Despite falling asleep over homework because her body was exhausted from standing behind the cash register all evening. Her guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, had pulled her aside last week. "Keisha, your SAT scores came back. 1,340. That's scholarship territory. Scholarship territory." The words echoed in her head during every difficult moment. The Morrison Community College Nursing Scholarship required a 3.5 gigapascals clean disciplinary record and an essay about overcoming adversity. Keisha could write that essay in her sleep, but the application deadline was next Friday, and the requirements were strict. One suspension, one fight, one mark on her record would disqualify her immediately. No exceptions. Baby girl's gonna be a nurse, Nana Ruth told anyone who'd listen. Gonna help people, just like she's always done. And it was true. Keisha tutored struggling classmates for free, using study time she desperately needed. She shared her lunch with kids who forgot theirs, even when it meant going hungry. She helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, walked small children home from school, listened when people needed someone to care. Why are you always helping everybody else when we barely got enough for ourselves? Nana Ruth had asked once. Because that's what good people do, Keisha had answered. You taught me that. Now, walking towards another day at Lincoln High, Keisha calculated in her head. Rent due in 12 days. Nana's medicine refill needed in 8. Scholarship application deadline is 6. A work shift at the store this afternoon meant 4 hours at $11.25 an hour, minus taxes. $45 she absolutely could not afford to lose. Her phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Rodriguez. Can you work an extra shift Saturday? Louise called in sick. An extra shift meant extra money. It also meant missing the study group for her chemistry test on Monday. But chemistry wouldn't matter if they got evicted. She typed back, Yes, ma'am. What time? 3 blocks from school, she passed Hillcrest Manor, the wealthy neighborhood where houses had circular driveways and 3-car garages. Sometimes she wondered what it felt like to never worry about money, to buy groceries without counting change, to have heat that never got shut off. But those thoughts were dangerous. They made her bitter, and bitterness poisoned everything good inside a person. Today felt different, though. Walking through those school gates, backpack strap digging into her shoulder, stomach empty but determination full, something was shifting in the air. She just didn't know that by lunchtime, everything she'd worked for would be hanging by a thread. But on this particular Tuesday, everything would change when she heard the voices behind the gymnasium and made the choice that would cost her everything. Lunch period at Lincoln High. While other students crowded the cafeteria, Keisha took her usual route through the courtyard, not because she preferred eating outside, but because the cafeteria required money she didn't have. Her stomach growled, a familiar sound she'd learned to ignore. The apple from yesterday's free lunch was long gone. She'd saved it for breakfast, eating it slowly to make it last. She was cutting through the loading dock area when she heard them. Come on, rich boy, hand it over. Tyler Morrison's voice carried that particular edge that meant trouble. Real trouble. Keisha knew that tone from experience. She'd heard it directed at herself plenty of times when kids noticed her worn-out shoes or second-hand clothes. She should keep walking, mind her own business. She had chemistry class in 15 minutes, and Mrs. Patterson wanted to discuss her scholarship essay after school. Getting involved with Tyler and his crew was asking for problems she couldn't afford. But then she heard the other voice. Please, I need it for my schoolwork. The voice was quiet, with a slight speech impediment that made the words careful and measured. There was genuine fear in it, terror, even. Keisha peered around the corner of the building. 3 junior varsity football players had cornered someone near the fence. Tyler Morrison, 6'2" and mean as a snake. Brett Williams, no relation, despite sharing her last name, who'd been held back twice and took it out on anyone smaller. And Jake Brooks, the kind of kid who filmed fights for social media likes. In the middle sat a boy in a motorized wheelchair. Keisha had seen him before, rolling through the hallways with quiet dignity. Always well-dressed, not flashy rich, but quality rich. The kind of clothes that whispered money instead of screaming it. Designer polo shirts, premium jeans, sneakers that probably cost more than she made in a month. His wheelchair wasn't the basic hospital kind either. This was high-tech, sleek black, with chrome details and what looked like a small computer panel on the armrest. Even from this distance, she could see it was expensive. Really expensive. This is a public school, Wheelie, Brett was saying, poking at the boy's tablet. You shouldn't bring toys that cost more than my dad's car. The boy Daniel, she remembered from roll call in her English class, gripped the tablet tighter. It's not a toy. It has all my assignments. Assignments? Jake laughed. Phone already out and recording. Dude, this thing probably costs 3 grand. My followers are gonna love this. Tyler stepped closer, and Keisha could see the calculation in his eyes. These weren't random bullies picking on someone for fun. This was targeted. They'd planned this. Here's the deal, Tyler said. You're gonna let us borrow that tablet, maybe some of those expensive headphones too. And if you're really nice about it, we might not post the video of you crying. Daniel's hands shook as he tried to back his wheelchair away, but they'd cornered him perfectly. The loading dock fence on one side, dumpsters on the other, 3 large boys blocking his path forward. I can't, Daniel said, voice barely above a whisper. My father, he'll be upset if I lose it. Your father, Brett mimicked, making his voice high and scared. What's Daddy gonna do, buy you a new one with his pocket change? They didn't know how right they were. Jake kept filming, moving in closer. Come on, Wheels, give us the good stuff. My TikTok needs content. Tyler reached for the tablet. Daniel jerked back, nearly tipping his chair. The terror on his face was real, not just fear of losing the device, but something deeper. Like this had happened before. Keisha's chest tightened. She knew that look. The helpless panic when bigger, stronger people decided you were an easy target, when you realized no one was coming to help. Her scholarship application sat in her backpack. Perfect disciplinary record required. No exceptions. 1 fight, 1 suspension, and her dreams of nursing school died right there on the pavement. But Daniel was trapped, really trapped. And these boys weren't going to stop at the tablet. Brett grabbed one of Daniel's wheels, spinning the chair roughly. Let's see how fast this thing goes when we push it. Stop, Daniel said, louder now but still scared. Please stop. Ooh, he said please. Jake taunted his camera. So polite. Tyler's hand closed around the tablet. Daniel held on, but he was no match for 3 athletes. Let go, freak, or this gets a lot worse. That word freak hit Keisha like a physical blow. She'd been called worse, but something about using someone's disability against them crossed a line that made her stomach burn. Her future hung in the balance. Scholarship, college, nursing school, everything she'd worked for since she was 8 years old. But she couldn't walk away. Not from this. Nana Ruth's voice echoed in her head. Baby, we may not have much, but we never walk away when someone needs help. Keisha dropped her backpack and stepped into the open. Back off. Now, what happened next would be caught on someone's phone camera and would destroy Keisha's future before it could save her. Tyler's head snapped up at her voice. His lips curved into a mean smile. Well, well, look what we got here. Broke girl to the rescue, Brett laughed, dropping Daniel's wheel and turning toward Keisha. This doesn't concern you, charity case. Keisha felt her pulse hammering in her throat. These boys were bigger, stronger, and had nothing to lose. But Daniel was still trapped, clutching his tablet like a lifeline. It concerns me when 3 guys gang up on someone who can't fight back. Jake kept his phone trained on the scene, eyes lighting up with the possibility of viral content. Oh, this is perfect. The poor girl defends the rich boy. This is gonna get so many views. Tyler stepped closer to Keisha, using his height to intimidate. Walk away, Williams. Last warning. Or what? The words left her mouth before she could stop them. Or we make you walk away. That's when Tyler lunged for Daniel's tablet again. Keisha moved without thinking, intercepting his reach. For a split second, their hands tangled around the device. Let go, Tyler snarled. You let go! Brett shoved Keisha hard from the side. She stumbled, her hands scraping against the concrete as she caught herself. Pain shot through her palms, and she felt warm blood seeping through her fingers. But she held onto the tablet. Give it back to him, she said, climbing to her feet. Her school uniform was already dirty, torn at the knee. Are you serious right now? Brett grabbed her backpack from where she'd dropped it, dumping the contents across the pavement. Her textbooks scattered. Her dollar store notebook flapped open in the wind. Her work uniform, the one she needed for her shift in 3 hours, landed in a puddle. Look at this stuff, he said, kicking at her things. Second-hand everything. You're defending some rich kid when you don't even have lunch money. The humiliation burned, but Keisha forced herself to focus. Daniel was still vulnerable, still scared. Jake circled closer with his camera. Say something for TikTok, poor girl. Tell us why you're fighting for someone who's got more money than you'll see in your lifetime. Because it's right, Keisha said simply. Tyler made another grab for the tablet. This time, when Keisha blocked him, he didn't just push her aside. His elbow caught her hard in the ribs, knocking the wind out of her. She gasped, pain shooting through her chest, but didn't let go. "Stop!" Daniel's voice cut through the struggle. "Please, just stop." He was trying to move his wheelchair closer, but Brett kicked at one of the wheels, sending the chair spinning sideways. Daniel fought to regain control, his face flushed with frustration and fear. "Stay out of this, wheels!" Brett snapped. "Your girlfriend's got it handled." That pushed Keisha over the edge. She launched herself between Brett and Daniel's chair, taking a hard kick to her leg that sent lightning up her thigh. "Don't touch him!" Now all three boys were focused on her. Tyler grabbed her phone when she tried to pull it out. "No cameras," he said, snatching it from her hands. The device hit the pavement with a sickening crack. The screen spiderwebbed, but it kept recording. "You broke my phone." "Sue me," Tyler laughed. "Oh, wait, you can't afford a lawyer." Brett and Jake closed in from both sides. Keisha realized with growing panic that this was escalating beyond her control. What started as defending Daniel was turning into something much worse. "Help!" she shouted, her voice carrying across the empty courtyard. "Someone help us!" "Scream all you want," Jake said, still filming. "Nobody comes back here during lunch." Tyler made one more aggressive move toward Daniel. Keisha threw herself in front of the wheelchair again, and this time Tyler's frustration boiled over. He shoved her hard enough that she stumbled backward into Daniel's chair. The collision sent them both off balance. Daniel's tablet flew from his hands, spinning through the air. Time slowed as Keisha watched the expensive device arc toward the concrete. Without thinking, she dove forward, catching it inches before it would have shattered on the pavement. She hit the ground hard, the tablet safe in her bloodied hands, but her shoulders screaming in pain. "Are you crazy or something?" Brett yelled. From the ground, Keisha looked up at Daniel. His eyes were wide with shock, not just at her catching the tablet, but at the fact that she'd taken such a hard fall to protect his property. "Here," she said, pushing herself up and handing the tablet back to him. "Your homework's safe." Daniel took the device with trembling hands. "You're hurt." She was. Her palms were scraped raw. Her ribs ached from Tyler's elbow. Her leg throbbed where Brett had kicked her. Her uniform was torn and dirty, but she was standing. "I'm okay," she lied. That's when Daniel did something unexpected. He reached to his wheelchair's armrest and pressed a small red button. Immediately, a high-pitched alarm began beeping, not loud enough to hear from the main school building, but piercing in the enclosed space behind the gymnasium. "What the hell is that?" Jake said, finally lowering his phone. Within 30 seconds, footsteps pounded around the corner. "Mr. Rodriguez," the security guard, appeared at a dead run. "What's going on here?" The three boys immediately backed away from Keisha and Daniel, trying to look innocent. "Nothing, sir," Tyler said smoothly. "Just talking." But Mr. Rodriguez saw Keisha's torn uniform, her bleeding hands, the scattered contents of her backpack. He saw Daniel's distressed expression and the obvious signs of a confrontation. "All four of you, come with me. Now." As they walked toward the main building, Keisha felt her world crashing down around her. Security footage would show the fight. There would be interviews, reports, disciplinary action. Her scholarship application might as well be trash. But when she glanced at Daniel, rolling alongside her in his wheelchair, she saw something in his eyes she hadn't expected. Gratitude, yes, but also something deeper. Respect. "Thank you," he said quietly, meant only for her ears. That was really brave. His voice was clearer now, less shaky. She noticed he spoke with careful precision, like someone who'd learned to overcome a speech impediment through practice. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I should be asking you that." He looked at her scraped hands with genuine concern. "You got hurt because of me." "I got hurt because those guys are jerks," Keisha corrected. Despite everything, the pain, the ruined uniform, the destroyed phone, the scholarship she'd probably just lost, she found herself walking a little straighter. She'd done the right thing, even if it cost her everything. But as Keisha faced the destruction of her dreams, Daniel's offer would plant a seed that would bloom into something extraordinary. Principal Johnson's office felt suffocating. The security footage played on repeat. The confrontation, the fight, Keisha diving to save Daniel's tablet. Zero tolerance means zero tolerance, Principal Johnson said. 3-day suspension for all parties involved. Keisha's world shattered. 3 days meant her scholarship application was dead. No exceptions. Ma'am, I was just trying to help. Policy is policy, Miss Williams. Tyler, Brett, and Jake sat smugly. Their parents would handle this with lawyers and donations, but for Keisha, this was the end of everything. While Principal Johnson called Nana Ruth, Daniel turned to her with genuine distress. This is my fault. Let me fix it. He pulled out a leather wallet thick with cash, hundreds of dollars more than Keisha made in 2 weeks. Please, let me give you something to help me. The money could cover Nana Ruth's medicine, part of the rent, their most pressing problems. Keisha pushed his hand away. I didn't help you for money. Daniel looked confused. But you lost everything. Your job, your scholarship. My Nana Ruth says you don't charge people for doing what's right. Part of her wanted to grab that cash. But taking payment would change her act of kindness into a transaction. Besides, you need that tablet for school just like anybody else. It's not the same, Daniel said quietly. You don't understand. I understand plenty. Bitterness crept into her voice. I understand you've probably never worried about rent or medicine or keeping the lights on. Daniel's face fell. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. He answered with surprising authority. Yes, I'm fine. No, don't send the team. I'll explain when I get home. The team? What kind of family had a team? Security coordinator, Daniel explained after hanging up, seeing her confusion. Regular families didn't have security coordinators. Daniel handed her a business card. Thick, expensive paper with embossed lettering. Daniel Morrison, student with an address in Hillcrest Manor. A sleek corporate logo below. Why does a student have business cards? It's complicated. 20 minutes later, Nana Ruth arrived. Keisha broke seeing her grandmother's worried face, how she moved carefully to hide her joint pain. Baby, what happened? I'm sorry, Nana. I ruined everything, when Keisha explained. Nana Ruth's expression softened. You did the right, child. You always do the right. But the scholarship, we'll figure something out. We always do. As they left, Daniel caught her arm gently. I meant what I said about the card. If you ever need anything. Keisha tucked it into her torn backpack without looking. All she could think about was calling Mrs. Rodriguez, explaining why she couldn't work tonight. Walking to Nana Ruth's old Honda, she felt the weight of her choices. She'd done right. She knew that. But right didn't pay bills. Driving away, she glimpsed Daniel in the mirror. He stood by an expensive black SUV, talking to a man in a suit. This wasn't how normal teenagers got picked up, but she was too heartbroken to wonder what it meant. What Keisha didn't notice during her darkest hour would soon become impossible to ignore. That afternoon, their cramped apartment felt even smaller. Keisha sat at the kitchen table, tending to her scraped hands while Nana Ruth made desperate phone calls. Mrs. Patterson? This is Ruth Williams. My grandbaby got suspended. Yes, I know what that means for the scholarship. Each call felt like another nail in the coffin of Keisha's dreams. No one would hire a girl who fought at school. The corner store position was gone. The scholarship was dead. Medical bills spread across the table like accusation letters. Diabetes medication, $94. Blood pressure pills, $86. Rent notice, 3 days overdue. Keisha pulled out Daniel's business card, studying it properly for the first time. The paper was thick, expensive. The logo was sleek, modern, a stylized M with geometric lines. Below Daniel's name was an address in Hillcrest Manor, the most exclusive neighborhood in the city. Morrison, she murmured. Why did that name sound familiar, Mrs. Rodriguez called from the store. Mija, turn on Channel 7. There's something you should see. Keisha flipped to the local news. A breaking story about a corporate merger. Morrison Technologies announces major expansion into educational technology, the reporter said. CEO Richard Morrison plans to bring innovative learning tools to underserved communities nationwide. The camera showed a gleaming downtown headquarters. A massive building with glass and steel, corporate logos displayed prominently. The same logo from Daniel's business card. Morrison Technologies has pledged $50 million to education initiatives, the reporter continued. The Billionaire CEO believes in giving back to public schools. Billionaire. The word hit Keisha like ice water. Nana, she called, voice shaking. Come look at this. They watched as the camera panned across Morrison Technologies' headquarters. The building took up an entire city block. The logo, Daniel's logo, was everywhere. That Morrison family, Nana Ruth said slowly. They donate millions every year. I heard their boy goes to regular public school instead of private school. Unusual for rich folks. Their boy, Daniel. 20 minutes later, a black Tesla pulled up outside their apartment complex. Expensive cars never came to this neighborhood. A well-dressed man in a suit got out, checked building numbers, and approached their door. Is this the Williams residence? He asked politely when Nana Ruth answered. I'm looking for Keisha. He handed over an envelope with expensive letterhead. Mr. Daniel asked me to check on Miss Williams. He wanted to ensure she received proper medical attention. The envelope contained contact information for a private doctor. After the driver left, Keisha stared at the business card with new understanding. Nana, I think that boy's family has serious money. Baby, maybe we should call that number. I don't want charity from rich people. But the medical envelope sat on the table, unopened. Both women sensed this was bigger than they'd understood. The next morning, when the black SUV pulled up, everything Keisha thought she knew about consequences would shatter. Keisha sat at the kitchen table, suspended from school, helping Nana Ruth sort pills into daily containers. Her scraped hands were bandaged, bruises darkening on her ribs where Tyler had elbowed her. She was dreading the call to Mrs. Rodriguez about missing work when she heard the engine outside. A black Escalade with tinted windows idled in front of their building. In this neighborhood, expensive cars meant trouble either repo men or police. But then, the rear window rolled down. Keisha! Daniel waved from inside the luxury vehicle. A professional driver in uniform sat behind the wheel. Nana Ruth peered through their thin curtains. Baby, that boy's here. Keisha's stomach knotted. She didn't want Daniel seeing how they lived. The subsidized housing, the cramped apartment, the reality of her poverty. But he was already making his way to their door, his motorized wheelchair navigating the cracked sidewalk with surprising ease. What's he doing here? Keisha muttered. When Daniel knocked, Nana Ruth answered with her usual politeness. Come in, son. How are you feeling after yesterday? Much better, ma'am. Thank you. Daniel's manners were impeccable as he rolled into their small living room. I came to check on Keisha. His eyes took in everything. The worn furniture, the medical bills scattered on the table, the empty spaces where a TV or computer should be. He didn't stare or judge, but Keisha saw him processing their reality. I wanted to thank you again, he said to Keisha. And I'm sorry about what happened to you because of me. It's not your fault those boys are jerks, but it is my fault you got hurt. Daniel's voice carried genuine guilt. This suspension, losing your scholarship, I know what that means now. He'd been researching her, learning about her life. I don't need your pity, Keisha said, more sharply than intended. It's not a pity. Daniel met her eyes directly. It's my responsibility. He took a breath, seeming to gather courage. Keisha, you don't know who my family is, do you? She pulled out his business card. Morrison Technologies. I saw the news last night. Then you know we have money. Rich people live in Hillcrest Manor. Yeah, I figured that out. Daniel's expression grew serious. My father is Richard Morrison, CEO of Morrison Technologies. Nana Ruth's hand flew to her chest. The billionaire on TV? Yes, ma'am. We're worth about $2.3 billion. The number hung in the air like something impossible to grasp. Keisha had never met anyone with that kind of money. Had never imagined sitting in the same room as someone worth billions. That's why I go to Lincoln High instead of private school, Daniel continued. My father believes in real-world education. He wants me to understand how most people live. Do you? Keisha asked, anger creeping into her voice. Understand how we live? Daniel's face flushed. I'm learning. Yesterday taught me a lot. Like what? Like when I get suspended, my tutors just work from home. My parents hire lawyers to make problems disappear. His voice grew quiet. I never thought about what suspension meant for someone like you. Someone like me? Someone who actually has consequences. The honesty in his voice surprised her. Most rich people she'd encountered, the few she'd met, never acknowledged their privilege so directly. Why are you telling me this? Keisha asked. Because I've been watching you for weeks. The words came out wrong, and Daniel immediately backtracked. Not in a creepy way. I meant, I noticed how you help people. You share your lunch with kids who don't have one. You tutor students for free. You're kind to everyone, even when they're not kind back. Keisha shifted uncomfortably. She didn't like being studied, analyzed. I was hoping someone like you existed, Daniel continued. Someone who helps people without wanting anything in return. But I wasn't sure until yesterday. So, this was a test? No. Daniel's response was immediate and firm. I never wanted you to get hurt. I didn't know about your scholarship, your job, or what it would cost you. Nana Ruth had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. Son, you seem like a good boy with a good heart, but you got a lot to learn about how the other half lives. Yes, ma'am, I know that now. My grandbaby sacrificed everything to help you. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Daniel straightened in his wheelchair. That's why I'm here. My father needs to meet you both. Why? Keisha asked suspiciously. Because he's always said he'd invest in people who prove themselves through actions, not words. Invest. My father doesn't believe in handouts. He believes in recognizing character and giving people opportunities to use it. Daniel's phone buzzed. Without hesitation, he answered with an authority that seemed strange for a teenager. Dad? Yes, I'm here now. She's exactly what I told you. Both of them are. He listened for a moment, then looked at Keisha and Nana Ruth. My father wants to invite you to dinner tonight. Both of you. Why? Keisha's guard was up. Because what you did yesterday, what you lost, that proves everything he looks for in people he wants to help. Help? How? Daniel hesitated. He'll explain tonight. But Keisha, he doesn't just give charity. He invests in people who've already proven their worth. And you think I proved something by getting suspended? I think you proved that integrity isn't about what you have. It's about who you are when everything is on the line. The words sounded older than Daniel's 15 years. Like he was repeating something he'd heard many times. Will you come? He asked. Will you let my family try to make this right? Keisha looked at Nana Ruth, who was studying Daniel with sharp eyes. What exactly does your father have in mind? Nana Ruth asked. He'll have to tell you himself, ma'am. But Daniel's voice grew serious. He's helped a lot of people over the years. People who've shown character when it mattered. People like me? People exactly like you. That evening's dinner would present Keisha with a choice that would define her entire future. But first, she'd have to prove she deserved it. At 6 sharp, the Morrison driver arrived to pick them up. Nana Ruth had helped Keisha choose her best outfit, a second-hand dress that was clean but clearly not expensive. She'd tried to cover her bandaged hands with long sleeves. Just be yourself, baby, Nana Ruth whispered as they climbed into the luxury SUV. Good people recognize good people. The drive to Hillcrest Manor took 20 minutes through increasingly wealthy neighborhoods. When they finally turned through iron gates marked Morrison Estate, Keisha's breath caught. The mansion wasn't just big, it was massive. 3 stories of stone and glass, with manicured grounds that stretched beyond what she could see. A circular driveway wrapped around a fountain that cost more than most people's houses. Lord have mercy, Nana Ruth murmured. Uniformed staff greeted them at the front door with genuine respect, not the condescending politeness Keisha had expected. They were led through hallways lined with art into an elegant dining room. That's where she met Richard Morrison. He was in his 50s, dignified, using a wheelchair similar to Daniel's. Same condition, she realized. When he smiled at them, it reached his eyes. Mrs. Williams, he said, rolling forward to greet Nana Ruth. Thank you for raising such an extraordinary granddaughter. To Keisha, he added, and thank you for protecting my son, regardless of the cost to yourself. His handshake was firm, assessing. This wasn't a social dinner, this was business. Dr. Rebecca Morrison, Daniel's mother, and a surgeon at the city's top hospital, joined them at the table. Despite the elegant setting, the family treated Keisha and Nana Ruth as equals, not charity cases. But Keisha could feel Richard Morrison evaluating her throughout dinner. Tell me about your nursing dreams, he said over the main course. Keisha explained her plans carefully, aware she was being tested. Community college first, then transfer to a 4-year program. Pediatric nursing eventually, working with kids who needed advocates. Why nursing? Dr. Morrison asked. Because people shouldn't suffer when they can be helped, Keisha answered honestly. And someone needs to care about the ones nobody else cares about. Richard Morrison nodded approvingly. Daniel told me about your academic record. 3.8 gigapascals while working 20 hours a week. Impressive. Not impressive enough to keep my scholarship after yesterday. Ah, yes, the suspension. Richard leaned back in his wheelchair. Tell me about that decision. Sir? You knew helping Daniel would likely result in suspension. You knew suspension would disqualify you from scholarship consideration. Yet you intervened anyway. Why? The question felt like a trap. Keisha chose honesty. Because some things matter more than my dreams. Such as? Basic human decency. Not walking away when someone needs help. Richard smiled, the first genuinely warm expression she'd seen from him. Excellent answer. Now tell me, what do you expect from this dinner? Another test. Keisha straightened in her chair. Nothing, sir. I didn't help Daniel for a reward. But you've lost your path to college, to your nursing career. Are you telling me that doesn't matter? Keisha's throat tightened. It matters. It breaks my heart. But I can't regret doing what was right. Even if it means staying in poverty? Watching your grandmother struggle with medical bills? The words stung because they were true. But Keisha met his gaze directly. Even then. Richard Morrison exchanged a look with his wife. Some silent communication passed between them. Keisha, I'm going to make you an offer. But first, let me be clear about something. His voice grew serious. I don't believe in handouts. I believe in investments. Investments in people who've already proven their character under pressure. He opened a leather portfolio. Full scholarship to any university you choose, including living expenses. Summer internships at Morrison Technologies. A trust fund to cover your grandmother's medical care and housing. Keisha's heart stopped. The numbers he mentioned were staggering, nearly $500,000 over 6 years. Why? She whispered. Because yesterday, you proved that integrity isn't about what you have. It's about who you are when everything is on the line. But then came the conditions. This isn't charity, Richard continued. It's an investment with expectations. You'll maintain a 3.5 gigapascals minimum higher than your current 3.8. You'll complete 200 hours of community service annually. You'll work at Morrison Technologies every summer. And you'll report your progress to me personally every month. What if I fail to meet the requirements? Then the support ends. Immediately. The honesty was brutal but refreshing. This wasn't a gift, it was an opportunity that had to be earned continuously. There's one more condition, Richard added. You'll help us identify and mentor other students like yourself. People who show character through actions, not words. Daniel spoke up for the first time during the business discussion. I requested that you get the first spot in our mentorship program. I want to learn what real friendship looks like. Nana Ruth had been listening quietly, but now she leaned forward. Mr. Morrison, this child has dreamed of being a nurse since she was tiny. She's got the heart for it, always taking care of folks. Will you accept? Richard asked. Keisha looked around the elegant dining room, at the family who could change her life with a signature. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders. This wasn't a rescue, it was a chance to prove herself worthy of investment. Yes, sir, she said firmly. I accept. Legal documents appeared, prepared by Morrison attorneys. Everything was legitimate, binding, substantial. As Keisha signed her name, she felt the magnitude of what was happening. Her life had just changed forever, but now she had to earn it. But Keisha's transformation would ripple outward in ways no one expected and create challenges no one anticipated. 6 months later, everything had changed. Keisha's dorm room at University of Pennsylvania buzzed with activity. Her roommate, Maria, another Morrison Scholarship recipient from East Los Angeles, was cramming for organic chemistry while Keisha video-called Nana Ruth. Look at my baby. Nana Ruth beamed from her new apartment. Gone were the cramped quarters and peeling wallpaper. The one-bedroom unit was modest but safe, in a neighborhood where she could walk to church without fear. How's your GPA holding up? Nana Ruth asked, because she knew the pressure Keisha was under. 3.9 this semester, Keisha replied, exhaustion evident in her voice. Maintaining above 3.5 while working 20 hours a week at her Morrison internship wasn't easy. Some classmates whispered about her lucky break, not understanding the weight of constant performance expectations. But the monthly reports to Richard Morrison kept her focused. Every grade mattered. Every community service hour counted. At Lincoln High, the changes were visible but gradual. The Keisha Protocol, as students had nicknamed the new anti-bullying program, was working. Older students mentored younger ones. Teachers nominated kids for character-based awards. Tyler, Brett, and Jake had faced real consequences. Tyler's parents, embarrassed by the viral video Jake had accidentally uploaded, made him complete 100 hours of community service. Brett switched schools after the social pressure became unbearable. Jake, surprisingly, became one of the program's most effective advocates after understanding the real impact of his actions. Mrs. Rodriguez's corner store had transformed into an unofficial community center. Morrison Technologies had provided computers and educational software, turning the back room into a tutoring space. When Keisha returned during breaks, she found neighborhood kids doing homework where she used to count change for groceries. "You started something good, mija," Mrs. Rodriguez told her during winter break. "These kids got hope now." The statistics were impressive. In the first year, the Morrison Character Scholarship had identified 89 students across 12 schools. 94% enrolled in college. 91% maintained their community service commitments. But success came with unexpected pressure. National media attention followed. Billionaire's character-based giving challenges traditional philanthropy, read one headline. Some critics accused the Morrison family of buying good publicity and creating performance charity. The criticism stung, especially when it reached social media. Comments on news articles questioned whether recipients really deserved their opportunities or were just tokens for rich people's guilt. Keisha learned to ignore the noise, but it wasn't easy. Daniel, now at MIT studying accessible technology design, called her monthly to check in. Their friendship had deepened into something genuine, two young people from different worlds united by shared values. "Dad wants to expand the program internationally," he told her during one of their calls. "Starting with schools in Brazil and Kenya. That's amazing. He wants you to help design the selection criteria. Says you understand what real character looks like under pressure." The responsibility was overwhelming sometimes. Keisha found herself representing not just her own success, but the potential of everyone who came after her. In her pediatric nursing classes, she excelled. Professors praised her natural empathy and clinical skills. She volunteered at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, working with kids from backgrounds similar to her own. One day, while helping a 7-year-old with cerebral palsy practice using adaptive equipment, Keisha realized something profound. This child reminded her of Daniel not in his wealth, but in his determination not to let limitations define him. "You're gonna do great things," she told the little boy as he successfully operated his communication device. "Like you?" he asked. The question stopped her cold. Somewhere along the way, she'd become the person she'd needed when she was younger. Ahmed, the Somali exchange student she'd helped the previous semester, was now one of her closest study partners. Through the Morrison Scholarship Network, he'd connected with other refugee students, creating an informal support system that helped newcomers navigate American college culture. "You taught me that kindness doesn't require translation," he told her once while they studied together in the library. The program's reach extended beyond individual success stories. Other wealthy families began adopting character-based giving strategies. Universities started recognizing everyday heroes alongside traditional academic achievers. The conversation about merit and worthiness was shifting. But for Keisha, the most meaningful change was simpler. She no longer worried about Nana Ruth's medicine. She no longer counted change for groceries or walked miles to save bus fare. The basic dignity of financial security allowed her to focus on becoming the nurse and the person she'd always wanted to be. Still, she never forgot where she came from. Every month, she returned to Lincoln High to mentor new scholarship candidates, looking for that spark of character she'd once shown behind the gymnasium. The cycle of kindness was growing, one person at a time. 2 years later, the circle would complete itself. But this time, Keisha would face a choice that tested everything she'd learned. Spring semester, junior year. Keisha walked across campus after a 12-hour clinical rotation, exhausted but fulfilled. Her scrubs were wrinkled, feet aching from helping young patients heal. Then she heard the familiar sound of trouble. "Give us your research, refugee boy." 4 students had cornered a young man near the library, his papers scattered in puddles, voice thick with accent and fear. "Please, I need those for my thesis defense tomorrow." The terror transported Keisha back to that day behind Lincoln High, Daniel's frightened face. The choice that changed everything. Her nursing exam was tomorrow, the one determining senior year clinical placement. Morrison internship project due Friday. Monthly report to Richard Morrison next week. Getting involved could mean complications, but the young man's hands shook exactly like Daniel's had. Keisha stepped forward without hesitation. "Back off. What's wrong with you?" The authority in her voice, developed through nursing training and standing up to attending physicians, made them pause. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does." She pulled out her phone. "Campus security or your professors, who should I call first?" The students backed away, realizing they'd chosen poorly. "Ahmed?" she asked, helping collect his soggy papers. He looked surprised. "How do you know my name?" "Ahmed Hassan, Morrison Character Scholarship recipient. I am an engineering student from Somalia." Keisha smiled. "I know that program well." "You are Keisha Williams? The first recipient?" "That's me. Are you okay?" "Yes, thanks to you. But why help someone you don't know?" "Someone once told me, good people help, because that's what good people do," she replied, echoing Nana Ruth. "And because someone helped me when I needed it most." That evening, she called Daniel as scheduled. "Final year at MIT, preparing to join Morrison Technologies. I helped another scholarship recipient today." Daniel grinned. "Dad will want to meet him. Some things never change about you. Good things, I hope. The best things." Nana Ruth called later, now healthy and volunteering at church. "Baby, you're living proof that kindness plants seeds. Now you're the gardener helping others grow." 6 months from graduation, Keisha was accepted to pediatric nursing at Children's Hospital. Her plan: work in underserved communities, combining medical skills with hard-earned advocacy. Daniel was expanding Morrison Technologies globally. Ahmed designed sustainable technology for refugee communities, 3 young people from different worlds, united by understanding that character mattered more than circumstances. The cycle continued, stronger than ever. Keisha's story reminds us that doing the right thing isn't always rewarded immediately, and it often costs us something precious. She lost her scholarship, her job, and her plans. But she gained something more valuable: the knowledge that she could sacrifice for others and live with the consequences. Every day, we face our own Daniel moments, chances to help someone when it might cost us something important: your grades, your reputation, your comfort, your time. The question isn't whether you'll be rewarded. The question is, who are you when everything is on the line? This week, look for your moment: someone being treated unfairly, a classmate eating alone, a neighbor struggling with groceries. Your act of costly kindness might be exactly what changes 2 lives forever, theirs and yours. If this story made you believe in the power of character over convenience, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe for more stories proving that courage still matters. Because somewhere out there, your moment is waiting.